For regular videos on ancient cultures and forgotten civilizations, please subscribe. Djoser's stepped pyramid is the earliest known large-scale stone construction in history. Technically, it's not a pyramid. This is an actual pyramid, and buildings of this design in the ancient world are very rare. Egypt was the pioneer of pyramid building, but because we know this structure here represents a stage in the development towards Egyptian pyramid design, it is in fact a proto-pyramid, it has been commonly called a pyramid, or at least a stepped or step pyramid. But it really isn't a pyramid, at least not in the geometric sense. Why am I even saying this? Well, after this got called a step pyramid, people started calling similar buildings around the world step pyramids, even ones with more than 4 sides. In fact, nowadays, any building that is bigger on the bottom and smaller on the top is often called a pyramid. And then some people have run with this and supposed that all buildings that modern people call pyramids must be related to each other. But the pyramids you will find in Egypt are unique to Egypt.
It's so fantastic to be here and witness the beginning of pyramid design, right? This is maybe an embellished mastaba tomb, but it will lead to the true pyramid that we will see a little bit later.
When we first walked out here and saw this, our jaws just dropped, and I think it's hard to not be overwhelmed when you see it for the first time.
Yeah, when you're standing in the presence of it, it seems more massive than when you see it on TV.
It's incredible.
Even the ancient Egyptians, you're thinking about like what they would think when they saw this. They'd never seen big buildings before, you know?
Or the foreigners coming to visit here, they would have come to Egypt and just been completely overwhelmed.
We are walking through the South Court, in which the king would have made formal appearances while still alive. He would, for example, have performed rituals of his Hebsed festival here. The festival, at least in later times, was celebrated once the king had reigned 30 years as a way to renew his powers. It doesn't look like Djoser reigned that long, so he may never have performed those rituals here. There are 2 pairs of these crescent-shaped stones in the court, and they are boundary markers representing Egypt's northern and southern borders. Later art depicts the king of Egypt running around them as part of the Hebsed festival, apparently showing his control over the whole country. There's a smaller Hebsed court off to the right, which the king was expected to use during the afterlife to reenact the ritual and confirm his kingship for all eternity. Before Djoser's reign, the customary form of grave, even for kings, was the mastaba tomb. The deceased would be entombed in an underground complex, and then a rectangular covering made of mud bricks would be constructed. Why Imhotep decided to do something different for his king is a mystery. But we do know that this proto-pyramid began as a square mastaba, except it was made of stone rather than mud bricks. But then, when Djoser's family wanted their tombs beside Djoser, Imhotep lengthened the monument into a rectangular form in order to cover the shafts used for the family. Then Imhotep placed a smaller mastaba covering on top of that, another smaller one on top of that, and a third. Later he extended the structure outwards to make it larger and added 2 more steps. The proto-pyramid of Djoser, which was clad in polished limestone that glistened in the sun, making it look like gold, ended up being 204 feet 62 meters high. The earliest colossal stone structure in Egypt and the tallest building in the world at that time that we know of. Djoser not only put his own name on the monument, but he broke precedent and decided to honor Imhotep by having his name carved on the monument too. Perhaps this is what led to an Imhotep cult that developed in later times. we are looking below the base of the pyramid. Remember, the early tombs were always below ground level, and that is Djoser's burial vault, encased in granite blocks.
Right. The sarcophagus of Djoser was inside of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
inside the stone.
The stone.
Yeah.
And you can see the double crown here.
Mm-hmm.
So it means his head was here and the leg on the other side.
Ah, yes.
The passageway to this chamber was sealed with a granite plug.
Welcome to the tomb of Djoser.
There are numerous passageways and rooms used for ceremonial purposes in the subterranean complex. They were adorned with fine reliefs and blue faience tiles, which were intended to mimic the matted curtains of the royal palace in Memphis. A maze was also incorporated into the design in an attempt to foil potential tomb robbers. It didn't work. Much was stolen from here, probably in ancient times. Even his mummy was taken. A large statue of Djoser was found in here, which is now in the Cairo Museum. It is the oldest life-sized statue found, so far, in Egypt. All indications are that Djoser was the founder of the Old Kingdom. That is, he successfully united all of Egypt under his rule. He also appears to be the first king to have been worshipped as a god. There's a great deal of uncertainty about his ancestry, but it may be that he was the son of an earlier king, Khazakemwi. Djoser had 2 daughters and no known sons.
See those beams up there?
One
Some of the original beams.
from the other side of the main. You can see also there is.
One of the more interesting finds from the tomb complex was a huge number of stone vessels, over 40,000 of them, which were in various shapes and forms and made of many different types of stone, such as limestone, slate, diorite, alabaster, and siltstone. And names of kings from before Djoser's time were found on them, kings of the 1st and 2nd dynasties, as well as of apparently important non-royal persons. They were piled into the shafts. The vases, not the persons. There is debate about why the vessels were put there. Some think they were originally stored by Khazakemwi, and Djoser decided to give them a proper interment. Others think they were dumped into the shafts to prevent grave robbers from getting into the king's chamber. I have heard some people express disbelief that the Egyptians could have made so many stone vessels in the early dynastic period. But let's do the math. The first 2 dynasties covered a period of about 300 years. If we assume even only 10 workshops in operation in all of Egypt, that would mean each workshop produced a minimum of 13 vessels per year. One craftsman could have accomplished that, and workshops with several craftsmen would have produced far more. Remember, stone vessels were luxury goods for the wealthy. They didn't need to produce them in the thousands each year. Regular folks had cheap ceramics.